Good afternoon. It's great to see all of you here today. We have a great event planned, and I hope you enjoy the opportunities we've built in throughout the event to connect with one another. Before we jump into our presentation, if at any time you are having technical challenges, we found that if you refresh your browser, it takes care of the majority of the problems. If you continue to have problems, please reach out to our event staff through the chat by sending an email or by sending an email to info@oamic.org. Just a reminder that today's presentation and discussion opportunity does follow the OAMIC antitrust policy. The policy is printed on our slide for your awareness and acknowledgement. If at any time you find yourself in a conversation that violates antitrust, we just ask that you bring it to the attention of event staff and leave the conversation. Following our panel discussion, we encourage everyone to stick around and network. Add to your calendars these upcoming events. We were really excited about convention this year, even in its virtual state. It will take place in the same event platform that we're in today, but you will be whisked away to the tropics of the OAMIC Oasis. It will be an event you will not want to miss. We are thankful for the generous sponsorship provided by Encova Insurance. Without their support, this event would not be able to go on.
Nice.
If you have any questions for our panelists during today's presentation, please place them in the Q&A tab on the right-hand side of your screen. This will prevent them from getting lost in the chat bar as you guys connect with the presenters. Joining us today as our moderator is Eric Barker, Regional Marketing Manager at Reinsurance with Grinnell Mutual Reinsurance Company. Our panel is composed of Jen Davis, current student at Penn State University, Trey Colinda, commercial surety underwriter with Travelers, and Kyle White, property and casualty risk advisor with Oswald Companies. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, everyone. It's great to be here today. I actually just wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. I started in the insurance industry fairly reluctantly. I graduated from Purdue University in December of 2001, shortly after September 11th. And I had 5 job offers on September 10th and none on the 12th. And so I ended up actually working at the mall, and one of the stores there was closing and had a job fair, and State Farm, someone who I had walked by probably a dozen times at different job fairs while I was at Purdue, was there. And that's how I started in the insurance industry. And I joke with my kids all the time, you know, I've gotten to go to state-of-the-art farms, fly drones, been a part of some pretty cool, you know, court cases, or got to witness them through the insurance industry. If there's something that you're interested in, there's probably a home for you in this industry. And, you know, like Tanya mentioned, joining me today are Jen, Trey, and Kyle. So starting with Jen, please provide me a few brief remarks about yourself and how you became interested in the insurance industry.
So Jen, Trey, and Kyle, go ahead and come onto stage.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having us here with you today. I know I can speak for myself as well as I'm sure the other panelists that we're really excited to be here and grateful to have the opportunity to talk with you today. So I am Jen Davis, and I am a senior at Penn State University, and I am from the Philadelphia area. And here on campus, I'm involved with our dance marathon that we just had a few weeks ago. I'm on the club swim team, and I am also a tutor and a mentor to incoming business students. And then on the more professional side, I spent my last 2 summers interning with Lincoln Financial on a life valuation and an annuity pricing team as a member of their actuarial development program. And then post-graduation, I'll be joining Liberty Mutual as a risk control consultant, and I will be working in their development program in the Pittsburgh area, which I'm very excited about. And I think one of the main reasons that I personally have become interested and have chosen to pursue a career in insurance is just because of the lifelong learning opportunity. I feel like there is always something new to learn, whether it be a different type of coverage or a new product or a new industry standard. And that was just something really important to me when I was looking for an early career opportunity. So thanks again for having us, and I will pass it off to the next panelist.
Hi, everyone. My name is Trey Kalenda. I am a commercial surety underwriter at Travelers, and I graduated from Illinois State University in May of 2020 and have started in the trainee program at Travelers since June of 2020. And I really didn't know anything about insurance before I got to Illinois State University. I always had a personal interest in finance, but really wasn't sure what marketplace I would end up in, what industry specifically. And upon attending Illinois State University, I found the Katie School of Insurance and Gamma Iota Sigma, and they really steered me down the path of insurance. And I second Jen's comments that it's a lot more unique industry that a lot of people give it credit. You can always learn more and more new things. And I think it's really exciting, very fun industry. I can pass it off to Kyle.
Thanks, Trey. Again, my name is Kyle White. I currently work at Oswald Companies as a risk advisor. We're a regional brokerage here in the Midwest area. Been headquartered in downtown Cleveland for quite some time. Again, working in the Cincinnati office. Recent graduate from the University of Akron in Northeast Ohio, where I graduated with a degree in risk management and insurance. Again, heavily involved within the College of Business, the RMI program, helping start and be an advocate for that. Looking at starting a Rising Risk Professionals through the RIMS organization down here in Cincinnati. And again, just to echo Jen and Trey's comments on the industry, it's just a great opportunity to do something that people don't want to do, people don't really find interesting. And I think we find it as a good opportunity to start as a young professional and grow and have such a leg up on several of our other classmates. So again, happy to be a part of the panel today. Hopefully we can answer any questions that you might have. And again, thanks again.
All right, well, thank you all. And thanks for joining me today and agreeing to sit on the panel. We have a few questions that we will discuss, and then if there's time, we'll open the floor for an opportunity to get questions from the audience. And I would just like to remind the audience, if you would, on the right-hand side of your screen, there's a Q&A area. Put your questions in there. If you want to have a chat during the discussion, you can do that in the chat. But if you put your questions over in the Q&A, then we'll know to get to those. But let's jump right in. Trey, let's start with you first. We all know that workplace culture is an important aspect in all of our jobs. As a relatively new hire with your organization, what are some key workplace cultures that you look for when considering a new job?
Sure, that's a great question. Thanks, Eric. I think I know I was lucky enough to have the privilege to intern at Travelers before I actually came on full time. And that helped me a lot in being able to really feel out the culture before I actually decided to come on full time. And so just my first sort of advice, get any opportunity to internship, even if it may not be, at the end all company that you want to be at, definitely take the risk and do so, because you're going to get a feel for the culture, whether it's things you really like or whether it's things you don't like. You're going to get a better idea of what you do enjoy or don't like about a culture. And for me, the biggest drawing point of Travelers culture is how supportive it is. It's a culture where you walk in the first door on your first day of work and everyone's welcoming you. Everyone wants to know, information about you. They want to give you their name, their number, so that you can reach out at any time to get the help that you need. And another great thing about their culture was that everyone was very reachable. So if I wanted to talk to really anyone across the corporate ladder, I could just click them from the Skype menu and call them. And, no one acted like you weren't important enough to give them or for them to give you your time. They really made sure that you felt valued and that you could ask them any questions and sort of pick their brain. So being supportive and really just providing you the feeling that what you're doing is meaningful were probably the two biggest drawing points for me.
Yeah, I definitely have similar points as you, Trey. I would say just talking about culture and picking an organization that's right for you, I would say it's going to come down to the job itself. I mean, for me, working on 2 previous carriers, I enjoyed that experience. Like Trey said, having those internships were very valuable. But for myself, I really wanted to get more into the sales side. So I really had a straight focus on the agency and brokerage side of things. So that's basically the job itself is such a huge point for young professionals. Location, I think, is another important aspect. I wanted to go south, enjoy Northeast Ohio, but this past winter and some of the winters we've had, I'm up to my eyeballs in the snow. So ended up in Cincinnati, not as south as I wanted to go. I was thinking more maybe Florida or Texas. So I think location too. Do you want to work for somebody that's more of a regional or a national, like in my case, broker? So having that opportunity and option was huge to me. And I'd say the last point, again, just to echo Trey, is the people. You kind of have a gut feeling when you interview with some people, is these the people that are going to lead your organization forward, people that are going to lead you to be the most successful you possibly can in your career. So I think, again, like Trey said, people are very important to the whole culture of, picking a company. Jen, what do you think?
I definitely agree. I think Trey and Kyle had some great points there, especially in terms of internships. I had 2 internships with the same company, and although I didn't accept a full-time job there, I feel like it really taught me, what to look for, how to evaluate the culture, what types of people that I would be working with. I also think that's something that I personally looked for was the team-oriented culture. So I was really interested in working for a strong communication-led team. I know I best learn by asking questions. So I really wanted to make sure I was working with a team and a company that was responsive and encouraging of those questions, and then would also help and encourage, how to seek out the best possible answer. I think something else that's really important about the culture at different companies is the connection to leadership and management. I know that's something really important to me, being accessible, to be able to talk to those people, even if it's, just through conferences, and learn about their goals and missions and policies for the organization. So that would be what I would say about the culture.
Looks like Eric is, he got booted from the event, so he is working his way back in. So I'll go ahead and continue with the questions. So a lot of companies, we haven't asked this one, correct?
Should be on the second one.
Okay, second questions. All right. So a lot of companies are currently fully remote work or partially remote work. Is there anything companies can do to help you feel included in companies' initiatives, or to help you connect with other coworkers outside of the team you're on? We'll start with Kyle and then go to Jen and then Trey while I work to get Eric back in our session.
Appreciate it. Yeah, so again, virtual environment, it's definitely tough. I have the flexibility to come to the office. Today was actually picture day for us, so it was good to just get everybody together. And again, if I have questions, go back and forth with my boss, pop into her office, ask her a question. That's always good. But again, the virtual environment, for some people, maybe like Trey, it's not an option. So just setting up those quick 20 to 30 minute calls with people, something that I did when I started. Again, it was good for me. I'm in property and casualty, focused on real estate and construction risks. So talking with people that are like-minded in that area, but also some of our other divisions, if it be life, employee benefits, retirement plans. And again, I might not bring the questions to the table that I might like in that particular time, but having them as a resource and calling back and building that relationship, what I think is just so important and something I found so valuable in starting my career with Oswald.
I totally agree with everything that Kyle said, and just building off that a little bit more. When I interned this past summer, I personally thought that my program did such an amazing job with keeping us involved and making sure we were meeting people and networking and still getting that internship experience. So I can just share kind of a few things that I thought worked really well from that perspective. So on the professional side, we would schedule, kind of like Kyle was talking about, just 15-minute, we called them coffee chats, just to get to know one another. We would have one-on-one professional development events, and we would hear from leadership many times throughout the program. We also, each week, we had the organization as a whole, we had different skills, whether that be leadership, communication, diversity. It was all about that skill for the week and kind of how you could show those core skills of the organization through your work. So I thought that was something that kept us really engaged, and that was really interesting from the program perspective. And then on the more social side, we would have virtual lunches just over Zoom or WebEx or whatever platform you'd be using. We would have other events such as we had a virtual escape room, we had trivia events. So those were just really great ways to connect with members outside of my own team and just really be able to get to know everyone.
Yeah, I think a lot of my commentary would be kind of right in line with your twos, Kyle and Jen. We called it the water cooler conversations that you really miss out on. It's not being able to just pop over to the cubicle and ask a quick question, or having someone just listening to other people's phone conversations and being able to learn off of that, or even just someone calling you over to say, hey, this just came up. It's a unique situation. This would be a great learning opportunity for you. Come check this out. Those are things that I think we miss out on most. And when I started, I actually did start remote. And so I was joking with the members of my team that it was my first real job and I was starting in my parents' basement. And that was certainly a weird feeling and something that, no one would have predicted. But the virtual environment is still effective in that we can share screens with each other, we can video call with each other. And so you're still able to get those sort of one-on-one training sessions in with members of my team. It's certainly not as good or as effective, I think, as the in-person, but you can still accomplish a lot due to the being laptop and the webcams and the monitors at home. It does make things a lot more accessible. So I think it's a good industry that adapts kind of well naturally to the remote environment, since a lot of the work is over the phone. But we're certainly missing out on that personal, inhuman interaction with each other, and that really stinks for sure.
I can say as a full-time remote employee that certainly all of those things can get in the way. And if and when we do get to go back to the office, you guys will certainly benefit from some of the things that Trey, you were just talking about. And I apologize, I missed some of the earlier comments. I just had my internet crash on me. So, those are some of the fun joys of remote work, but you'll have a new appreciation for the people that work at home and how they balance those things. Because I can say it took me probably a good maybe 12 to 18 months to figure out that, I couldn't watch a Cubs game and work at the same time or fold laundry or something like that. So you guys are certainly a leg up. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next question here. But how can the leadership of companies that you either work for or will work for in the future help you feel embraced in the company culture and as a valuable team member? Jen?
Yeah, this is a great question. I think for me, it's really important to have accessibility to the leadership. I know when I was in person for my one internship, the leadership, they were always just walking around. They would pop in, say hi, check on you, check on the projects that you're working on. And I just thought it was really a cool experience, to have them walking around the office and, just being able to say hi to them in the hallways or whatever it may be. I think in terms of the pandemic and, all this change that's going on, I think when, the leadership is transparent and patient and clear during such an uncertain time, I think, that's something that's really positive. for the employees, to have everyone stay focused and be clear with your expectations. I think that's really awesome in this pandemic environment. And then the last thing I would say is I think being committed to all levels of the organization and really working to just drive the core values of your organization through all different levels, so everyone feels valued and like a member of the team. And I can pass it off to Trey next.
Thanks, Jen. For me, I think leadership, one of the biggest things they can do is put a focus and dedicate resources towards diversity and inclusion. And diversity, it could take really any form, race, gender, age, regardless of what it is. You want to feel comfortable when you walk in the door of work. And we talk about a lot of travelers bringing your true self, your whole self to work. If you're showing up to work and you're not really feeling like you can be yourself, or you're sort of changing who you are to impress the people you're around, you're not going to be doing your best work, and that's not really benefiting anyone. And so I think embracing diversity and inclusion and making people really feel like they belong and like they're appreciated for who they are, I think it goes a really long way. And it's one of those simple things that if you can get it right, you can create the right culture and the right balance at your workplace that really allows everyone to perform and to really enjoy their work at a higher level. I'll pass it off to Kyle.
Yeah, thanks, Trey. Again, echoing both your guys' comments. For me, leadership, again, when you're choosing a supervisor or someone you look up to, I think we all want to be surrounded by winners. It might sound arrogant or cocky, but you want to be able to look up to your boss and say, someday I'd like to be in their position. If they're the type of people that are more focused on themselves and not really valuing you as a young person in this industry, that's something you need to watch out for. I was fortunate to, again, choose supervisors, in my opinion, and people I look up to in Oswald leadership that are going to invest in me currently so that I can get to a place of their statue someday. And I think that's just huge in our industry, because that's ultimately what I want to do, is get to that point that I am super successful and can consider myself a winner within the industry. But again, give back and help some of the younger generation create their own success.
Great input from all of you. Thank you. Let's move on to our next discussion topic. We've been talking a lot about connecting virtually, and this is a little bit different, but how do you seek to connect to your company in a virtual world, but also how you connect to the larger industry? So what virtual connection platforms do you utilize to collaborate, continue educational opportunities, and engage with industry colleagues? Trey, let's start with you. And while we discuss this topic, it's okay to share the same platforms that you use, even if the other panelists have already mentioned them. This will help our audience understand the most widely used platforms.
Thanks, Eric. I think certainly one would be Zoom. I think everyone's gotten to know Zoom pretty well. But I think Zoom and Skype are really the two main tools that we're using, my team and I are using. And we've been able to do a lot with Zoom specifically. Jen mentioned some of them earlier, but things like escape rooms. There's a trivia website we use to interact with some of our brokers that's called Trivia Hub. And they'll just put on sort of a whole Zoom trivia game for you and break you into teams. And it's great because they take care of all the work and everyone knows how to hop on Zoom now. So there isn't too much of the technical issues of trying to figure all that out. It's as simple as just clicking a link and hopping in. And so I think Zoom has really allowed a nice platform for all sorts of different activities. And then also seconding Jen's virtual lunches. We've done virtual lunches as well as like virtual coffee breaks where you can just hop on a call and talk for a half hour, an hour. And we've been using things like DoorDash or Grubhub. You could order food or coffee and send it to the broker or the agent or whoever you're talking to. Or you could even just send them a gift card and allow them to do it themselves. And this way, you're still showing that, you're thinking about them, you care about their business, but you can still connect in a way that's close to going out to lunch with them or getting coffee, but just in the virtual platform instead.
Trey, just we're good friends with travelers, so just send it our way whenever you feel like it. I'm down here in Cincinnati. I can always go for a free lunch. But again, just to echo same thing that Trey was saying with the virtual platforms, I would say maybe connected with people still in the industry. I mean, LinkedIn is always great, sending messages, looking for job opportunities, things like that. Great platform. Facebook and Instagram, I think we've seen more of a push through that. For companies, from a marketing and PR perspective, just sharing some events that they're doing in the community or anything like that. And then again, I think RIMS, the Institute, National Alliance, they give a lot of good information out. This past year, I was actually able to complete my CIC and CRM designation through the National Alliance. So many good resources out there for us to utilize as young professionals to really get that base foundation so that we're entering the industry with a leg up and can really start our career on the right note. What about you, Jen? What do you think?
I agree with all of the platforms that were mentioned. I know for me, for our classes, we use Zoom. And one of the things that I think is really cool with Zoom is that you can do breakout rooms. So I have some lectures that are hundreds of kids, and the professor will be able to break us up into little groups, to talk or brainstorm or, network, get to know each other. So I think that's one of the cool things and capabilities that you can use with Zoom. Another platform we use is Microsoft Teams. It's kind of similar to like a Zoom and Skype combo. You can chat and your conversation history is saved. Unlike Zoom, when you kind of close it out, all the chats go away. But you can still meet face to face. You can chat. You can share files. And I found that a lot of people are becoming more familiar with Microsoft Teams. So those are just two of the platforms that I've been using recently.
And some really great input there. And being that you guys are pretty early on in your career, I'm sure that the interview experience is pretty fresh in your mind. So, you've probably had one or several job interviews recently. Tell us about your most interesting interview and why. Go ahead and start with Kyle this time.
Yeah, definitely fresh off interviews, probably within the past 6 months or so, and definitely doing it during a pandemic. That's also been interesting. So, most interesting one, that's definitely a good question. I was interviewing with this company. The opportunity was in actually Jacksonville, Florida, and I'm from Northeast Ohio. And I was talking about really looking to get out, go somewhere else. And this was a call that was at like 7:00 at night, which I thought was kind of odd just to be calling after hours. But I took the call anyways. And I was talking with this lady, and she was so frustrated that the previous person that worked there worked for a year, said no, they love it, they're going to stay in Florida forever, and they ended up leaving and going back to Alabama to live with their boyfriend. So I think just the main point of that story is people are people. Things are going to happen. People are going to show up late, just like, if you're in a face-to-face setting. So that was just something I thought was pretty funny, just talking to that lady and again, having that frustration with her that, should she take a chance on a young professional like myself, all this bad experience that she had. So I thought that was a kind of an interesting phone call with one of the people I was looking at.
Can jump in on this one as well. So the most interesting job interview I had, I think it was most interesting just because of the way that it was conducted and the platform that they use. So this company had used Zoom and they utilized the breakout rooms like I was talking about a few minutes ago. And it was a pretty long interview. I think it was, a 2-hour interview, and each individual interview was about 15 minutes. So it would keep switching breakout rooms, and you would meet new people. And I think the really interesting thing about that is I got to meet so many people from the company just in that 2-hour period. And each of the sessions had a different focus. Some were, just chatting, some were specific questions, some were, what questions did I have from them? So each one was a little bit different. And I thought that was interesting from my perspective as well as the company's perspective. I'm sure, they could interview a lot of candidates, during that one time and be able to get everyone on the same call and have everyone on the same page.
Yeah, my most recent interview was actually the interview for my internship at Travelers. And since I accepted a position at the end of my internship, that was actually the most recent one I had. And as well as it probably was my most interesting because going into that interview, I actually had no idea what surety was. I had no idea, any clue about the business, the position I was applying for. Um, but I think the key to that conversation and sort of some advice that I would share with interviews is it's not always about the focus of, preparing for sample questions that they might ask you, doing, prep interviews. For me, it was a lot of me asking the questions and guiding some of those conversations. Because as much as it is them interviewing you, you're also interviewing the company, wanting to get to know if it's going to be a good fit for you. We talked a lot about the culture today. And so you want to know if it's going to be a good fit for you and if you think you will mesh well with those people. And so I think you should take a lot of time before interviews as well to, do your research on the company, come up with, good, meaningful questions that show that you've, put in the ample time and that you're taking that position, the application for that position very seriously. And by doing so, I think you can gain yourself a lot of credibility, especially like Kyle talked about. You may not get all the credibility you'd hope for when you're a young professional. There may be some doubts about, your ability or your commitment. And so I think, really putting in that time and effort and doing the research, it could go a long way to really make you look professional and make you seem credible during an interview.
Yeah, that's all really great feedback again. And before we head into this last question, Tanya should know better than to give me a microphone. I'm just going to pass on a little piece of advice. I mentioned earlier that I graduated right before or right after September 11th, and those were unprecedented times. And I think, as a young professional entering the workforce at that time, I really felt the weight of the world because I saw those student loans coming and no opportunities. And so the thing that I would just say, I started as an auto underwriter, and it was probably the furthest thing from my dream job with a gigantic insurance company who, at the time I probably would have thought that it was the, oldest, stuffiest place that I've ever been. But the truth is that there's really no experience that's a bad experience. That auto underwriting position really gave me perspective that I still use today. And so, I have 13 and 14-year-old boys, and they make fun of the insurance industry all the time because I'll sit here in my office, and the pandemic has forced my office. As I move over, you can see my bed. My boys actually, when all this happened, shared a room, and they have their own rooms now. So that pushed me into our bedroom, and my wife is at the dining room table. And so while, I wouldn't say that things are perfect in this type of environment, just like the things that you're going through aren't perfect right now. If you take stock and give yourself some grace, because you don't know if I'm wearing pajama pants. I have my, there's a lot of good things that can be going on right now too. So, just give yourself some grace and take the opportunities to learn. And if you're not in the perfect position for you or the perfect company for you, the insurance industry is a great place to be. And if you're patient and you do a good job, you'll end up where you're supposed to be. So, it's been a long and winding road, but I love my job today. And, I wouldn't be here without going through some of those things. And so I applaud you guys for looking at the industry and seeing the opportunity as young people and embracing that. So with that, I'm going to head into our last question here. And hopefully it's a kind of fun one. But just describe for us what your dream job would be and a little bit about what maybe that dream organization would be. And so, Jen, we're going to go ahead and start with you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for the question, Eric. I think similar to what Kyle was saying earlier in terms of location, I think my dream job and dream organization would be revolved around a specific location, hopefully somewhere near a beach. I know I'm in State College now, which is the middle of PA, and it snows virtually every single day. So I've definitely been thinking about the beach a lot lately. My family has a shore house in Cape May, New Jersey, if anyone's familiar with the area. But I just, I feel like it'd be cool to work near a beach, be able to have meetings, outside and do some fun things on the beach. So that would be my dream.
I can go next. I'm a huge Chicago White Sox fan. Grew up Naperville my whole life. It's like 20 minutes outside of Chicago. Uh, and so the White Sox have just always been my team. My favorite sport, baseball, my favorite team. So I think if I could pick a position, it would be probably managing the Chicago White Sox.
Eric with the comments. I don't know. I think you guys are going wrong. I think you want to own it. You want to have Trey's name on the stadium. I don't know, something like that. But I don't know. I'm a big, I listen to Grant Cardone and some of his books, and he's always a big in-your-face 10X type of guy. You need to be doing more. So I definitely like to get into like real estate. I don't know. It could be like Kyle White Capital. You can go anywhere with that. You could own whatever building you wanted to, all over the world. You can live wherever you want. So that would probably be my ideal job down the road. And I always just thought real estate was interesting. Both my parents are commercial real estate agents. So, I'm focusing on construction or real estate. So I just find it a really interesting area. And it'd be good. I like the name Kyle White Capital or something like that. So that's my plan. It's going to happen. You'll see it around.
I love the enthusiasm and the excitement. It sounds like location is most important for a couple of you, and name and lights is important to somebody. I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us all today. We do have several questions that we want to get to. And after our event and our discussion is over here, I encourage everyone to stick around and have a moment to engage with our attendees today. We have several young professionals who are not on our panel today that have joined us as well. So I encourage everyone to hop around and talk with those that are joining us. To move to other tables, all you have to do is double click on another seat and you'll instantly join in that conversation. So let's start with a couple of the questions that we have here today. The first one is, what do you use to connect to the larger insurance industry in terms of like social media or maybe even some news platforms or those kinds of things? So let's just start with Jen, and then we'll go to Trey and then Kyle.
That's a really good question. I think for me, I probably use LinkedIn the most. I follow a bunch of different types of insurance companies, and I feel like I just kind of scroll through there. If they have articles that they post, just reading through those. So I would say LinkedIn for this one, and just following a bunch of different insurance industries.
Yeah, I would definitely second LinkedIn. That's about the only social media I really use for connecting. It just makes it so easy. And now they have like the QR codes. So if you're meeting someone, you could just scan each other's phone for a QR code. And then that way you don't have to lose a business card or try to keep track of business cards. LinkedIn just makes it so easy to just, if you need to connect with someone, you just go to the app and message them. It's very convenient. And then also I like to read Insurance Journal. Those come out monthly they just get mailed out. And there's a lot of really good sort of like emerging trend topics in those as well.
Yeah, really the same. Can't really add anything there. LinkedIn would be a big one for me.
Thank you. What are some entry-level insurance company positions that I can keep an eye out for when I'm looking? Looks like this is a question from maybe one of our younger attendees or young professionals. Anything that comes to mind when you were out there searching?
I've heard a lot of people have success with doing claims position to start, because you can learn a lot about just sort of how insurance operates if you're not very familiar. And I've heard a lot of, senior executives across my company who did start their career as just a simple entry-level claims position and work their way all the way up. So yeah, definitely claims could be a good one to consider.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say probably claims and underwriting positions with carriers, because again, most of the carriers like the Travelers and AIG and some people like that, they're going to have, an education onboarding program for you. If it be 6 months or a whole entire year, you can come in. Again, most of us have a finance background or RMI degree, but some people come in with psychology degrees, education majors, and it takes them such, a longer time to get acclimated with, insurance language and things like that. So I would definitely say from the carrier side, it would probably be claims and underwriting. My position was a little bit difficult, but you might find some more opportunities if you really wanted to get into sales as like an associate producer or something. If they have a role like that, you can kind of learn under a producer and help them while kind of building your own book of business. So.
Yeah, I agree. I think the specific positions that Kyle and Trey shared were good. I also think for me personally, I was really interested in joining a development program. So when I start my job in June, I will be in a structured development program. It's 15 months. And that was just something that was really important to me, to have that structured program with the professional development events and the mentorship program. So that could also be something to check out in terms of development programs.
Great, thank you. Do you have any resume tips that you think helped you land your job?
I guess I can start with this one. Personally, I probably didn't have the sexiest resume of the industry. It was probably very bland and straightforward. If you're going to career fairs and stuff, if you can get out, I actually had personal business cards with my LinkedIn QR code. So I was definitely a total nerd. But that was just something to kind of separate me from, somebody else that had a whole 8.5 by 11 sheet resume and tried to make it look as the most aesthetically pleasing as possible. So it's more just being able to convey your resume if you're talking with a recruiter or on a Zoom call. They're going to look for certain things, but it's more knowing your resume like the back of your hand and being able to communicate effectively, in my opinion. So.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with Kyle. I too had a business card with my LinkedIn QR code. So I guess we're nerds together there. But I had a lot of help from the Katie School of Insurance at my school at Illinois State. They helped a lot. They had like resume workshops. And I know just sort of business schools in general will often do like resume workshops just for like anyone in the whole college could just go and show up. And so you could potentially look for those if you are on campus, try to get a resume workshop and have, people look at yours and critique it. Or if not, even just you could reach out to someone on LinkedIn and say, hey, can you check out my resume? Can you give me some feedback on it? What do you think would be the best to have on it? And I'm sure people would be happy to help.
I agree with what both Trey and Kyle said. I did not have a business card, but I would say the key thing to the resume is just the organization and the consistency. So making sure that your name and your school are up top, and then go into your professional, and then your volunteer and extracurricular, and anything else you may add at the bottom. But I think just having something that's consistent and clear and organized is probably the best tip in terms of resumes.
Hey, Tanya, just a quick note. You mentioned, I think it was Trey, about the school helping you. You've paid them thousands and thousands of dollars, and even as you get further into your career, a lot of times your school will still help you. So I had a career transition about 2 years ago when I came to Grinnell, and in that transition, I actually took some resume workshop type classes from Purdue, and their placement program even got involved, even though I graduated. It'll be 20 years ago this year. So.
Excellent. One other thing I would like to add on to that is one way to differentiate your resume from the thousands of other people who are applying for the same job is a cover letter. I know our personal organization that I work with, they will not even look at resumes that don't have a cover letter because they feel that that's just one way that they can peel out a large portion of people who may not really have an interest of actually, they're just sending out mass resumes. So if it's really important to you, make sure you include that cover letter of telling them a little bit more about you and why you're interested in that position. Our last question today, I'm sure that all of you are working with many coworkers who are in different generations. Have you found that there's any specific techniques or things that you do to better help bridge the gap between your communication or your work styles or your workflow or anything like that? I know that this is kind of off the cuff and you may not have anything, so no worries if you can't think of anything. But if there is something you want to share, just unmute yourself and tell us what you have.
I think the biggest thing, and it goes back to earlier when I was talking about diversity and being appreciated, I think it just comes down to listening, just listening to your coworkers, and hopefully they're doing the same to you, listening to you, the input you have, who you are as a person. I think it's very easy to bridge gaps between any type of person, age or whatever it may be, if you just listen and really try to understand each other. So I think it's just putting in that effort and really paying attention and, keeping mental notes of the things that help people or could bug other people or how you can work best with different types of people. You'll get the hang of it naturally, and it'll just kind of come as long as you're, cognizantly looking to do so. So I think just listening is really a big factor.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Trey. I mean, again, people are going to be in different stages of their life. Luckily, I have a couple of young bucks down here in Cincinnati that I can bounce ideas off of, and we're go-getters and we're always on the move, and how can we get connected within the community? But again, there's some people that are just at different stages in their life, if it's married, have kids, so on. So getting the most out of everybody in every conversation, everyone's going to be different. But again, for some companies, you might feel intimidated by some of the older individuals. I get on a sales call at 9 a.m. every Monday morning, and there's 90 people on with the CEO and COO, and it's pretty intimidating when they're, well, Kyle, what do you got going on this week? And you're like, trying to set some meetings, but I mean, for me, it's like I'm a new producer. I'm playing with some of the big dogs that have been around the block. So you got to be confident in yourself, bring your own spice. Don't be worried about if somebody's going to include you or not. You got to be confident in yourself that you can go and win business regardless. And you're going against people that have been in the industry, has had connections. But what are you going to be? How are you going to be perceived in the industry? And are you going to be able to last with some of the people that have been in it? So just, again, being confident in yourself is very important. So
I really agree with everything that was said. I think the listening and communication is a huge aspect of it. I think I can learn from others as well as others can learn from me. And I think having that mindset and that mentality, that you can learn and others can learn from you is just something that's really important to communicate.
Thank you. So that's all we have for you today. I want to thank all of you for participating today and helping us connect our emerging leaders and our young professionals with the broader OAMIC membership. We want to welcome all of you to any of our OAMIC events. Now that we have your contact information, you'll probably be receiving a couple emails from us. So we encourage you to engage with us at an event in the future. This platform is open until 5 o'clock for continued networking. So feel free to join in that. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Much.
thank you, everybody.
Thank you.